atheist, which means I have a belief that God does not exist. That's quite different from being an agnostic. An agnostic thinks that it's possible that God exists, and an agnostic tends to suspend judgment. It's a kind of sitting on the fence. I don't sit on the fence. I believe that God does not exist. Most Christians, all Christians, don't believe in the Mexican god Quetzalcoatl or Zarathustra or Zeus. So they're all atheists. They're not agnostics. I always argue that I'm just consistent because I'm an atheist about all of the gods, and I think for the same reason. I think there's no reason to believe any of them. I don't believe in the Loch Ness Monster either, and I think it could exist, but I think the evidence is not very good. So I disbelieve in God in the same way I disbelieve other things for which I think there's not sufficient evidence. That's as simple as that.
If you do the right thing and you behave yourself, then and follow this book, then you get to go to paradise and you'll live in paradise. And if you don't do it, you're going to burn in hell. I mean, we live in paradise now. Look around us. This is it. This is paradise. There is so much beauty in this world. It's just mind-boggling.
The question of why people believe in God is an interesting question, but that's a question of psychology. Not least of all, Freud had a lot to say about that. I don't particularly believe Freud's theories, but he was on the right track at least. He was looking for human needs, human fears. He said that the belief in God is a kind of infantile regression to our childhood when we feared our father and we loved him also, and so the monotheistic God is a kind of reflection of those childhood feelings.
Like the ring exists in the gold, so too the world exists in God, and the world is not a second thing to God. It has no being of its own that can make it a second thing, and in that sense we have non-dualism. God alone has real being, and the world has apparent being. It's God's appearing in the form of what we call a universe.
You know, that statement about God at the end of Brief History of Time was put in at the publisher's behest, not at Stephen's. Right. And it might... So, you see, science is so surprising that it might tell you about the limits of God. But just to give you an example, if you were to say that God invented the universe and did so for the reasons that are expressed in the Bible, and therefore wanted something to happen in the Garden of Eden, then you say, well, why does he need all of this solar system and all of this galaxy and all of those galaxies and this gigantic universe? It seems to be, you know, over-provision gone mad. And physics can then say, well, it requires a gigantic universe to be able to create the elements. And then you say, well, God could have decided not to bother to do it that way, but just to have them do it in 24 hours. And God, theoretically, could decide any physics he wanted. So but I really do feel that whatever science comes up with, many people will simply say, we have faith in our religion, and that's the end of it.
People are often encouraged to believe. I mean, the story of doubting Thomas. Thomas in the Bible is criticized for wanting to touch Christ before he would believe in him. And that's regarded as a criticism. Well, it seems to me that that's quite the wrong lesson to learn. Thomas was the rational person who wanted some evidence. And it seems to me that's the sort of thing you would need precisely in things that are highly unlikely or doubtful. When extraordinary claims are made, as they say, you need extraordinary evidence.
That you are actually a very powerful, influential human. And of course, religion doesn't want you to believe that, because if we all believe that, then, you know, everyone would be going insane, that the whole world would be upside down. We wouldn't be able to control people. And I think that religion really controls people and keeps them in their little boxes, and too afraid to actually do anything or to move. And that's a very good way to keep everybody.
If the order of the universe is governed by some God or first cause, then where does that lead me? Am I free to choose as I like? Do I have free will? And what if I exercise that choice? What will happen to me if I obey that first cause or God? What will happen to me if I don't?
I believe that as adults, people are called to turn towards love and towards life and towards truth. And the only people who will be punished are those who turn their back definitively on the light.
Everyone has two types of actions: the voluntarily actions and the involuntarily actions. One is responsible in the hereafter for his voluntarily actions. That's why we have will and we can choose, but the choice is not, as you say, that means the choice for you to drink coffee or tea, for instance. It's not like this. They have the choice. That means they can do either of the both. That's why Muslims always refer to the will of Allah by saying in Arabic, Insha'Allah. That means they won't be able to do anything without the will of Allah.
The theory of karma, it believes that if you do good, those good deeds will come back to you. And they will come back either in this life or in some future life. Whatever you do that is bad, whatever you hurt another person by way of your speech, or whenever you hurt another person physically, what you've done, that bad deed, will come back in equal measure to you. If not in this life, then there should be another life so that you get your just deserts. Thus people can, by their good karma, they can develop in a good way, and they can develop spiritually if they have the right attitudes, and they can also go downhill and take forms in different animal forms and lower forms temporarily until they work out their karma.
So people do good things independently of beliefs in God. Atheists do good things too. So, for example, many people argue that you can't have a morality without God. I think that's just absurd. It's not only that atheists are also decent and behave nicely, which they will concede. You can found a morality without some transcendent intelligence or some transcendent values.
There are two ways you can see ethics coming from science. One of them is simply observational. Then you can see cooperation is very effective in the animal kingdom, in the natural world. It is more effective for us to live together peaceably and helpfully than to be fighting all the time. Fighting has its role in the animal kingdom, but it can be so destructive as to wipe out the entire community. And I think that absolutely applies to human beings. It just doesn't work. It's a utilitarian ethical system, if you like, but it's evolving all the time.
The attributes of a good Hindu would be the same as the attributes of a good person anywhere. There are many things that are distinctive in Hinduism, but surely a person is a good person, whether they're a good Muslim or a good Christian or a good Jew or a good Buddhist or a good Hindu.